What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Wisconsin Sportsman podcast, which is brought to you by Lone Wolf Custom Gear. I'm your host, Pierce Nellis, and this is your home for all things hunting, fishing, and conservation in the Badger State. Folks, hope you're all doing well. I hope the deer season prep is going well as the clock starts to kind of wind down in our preseason prep period here. It's right around the corner. What did I say last week? 5.5. So we're just over a month out, literally like a month and 1 day away from our archery opener in Wisconsin as this episode comes out. So I'm fired up for that. Got some awesome deer talk on deck today, so I'm super fired up. But before that, you guys heard me talk about it last week. I'm going to try and do this in record time, but there are some awesome events coming up here on the deer season prep front that I'd like to just make you guys aware of. First being tomorrow night, as this comes out, Wednesday, August 12th, at the Great Dane Pub in Fitchburg. We will be having our deer season kickoff with myself, Paul Lanier, Derek Malcor, and the one and only Jacob Sklenar. We'll be doing some e-scouting breakdowns of different properties and different terrains, followed by Q&A sessions, some awesome raffle prizes, tons of free food, tons of free beer. RSVP at the link in the bio. Not in the bio. Well, there's a link in our bio. There's also a link in the show notes of this episode, depending on what you're listening on. But RSVP, let me know that you're going to be there the following week. Right? Yeah, the following week, 10 days after. That's right. On August 22nd, that Saturday, down at the Okayest Hunter headquarters, we're going to be doing an e-scouting to in-season scouting seminar with myself, Derek Malcor, Matt Strime, and Brian Dombrowski. We're going to be breaking in the new Okayest Hunter physical studio. It's going to be a great time. So you can find the link to RSVP there and reserve your spot in the show notes as well. And last but not least, at the end of this month, on August 29th, that Saturday, I will be down at the Sitka store in Vernon Hills, Illinois for their deer season kickoff, talking e-scouting, talking deer, hanging out. It's going to be an awesome time. They run a great shop down there. And if you're doing some trail camera work, getting those out right now, and potentially you're in the market for some new trail cams even, if you head on over to yellowstone.ai, from now through September 1st, if you purchase a new camera and then you head on over, you make your account, and then you head on over to yellowstone.ai/friends and use code Pierce Yellowstone, PIERCEYELLOWSTONE, you will get unlimited for 1 year, an unlimited data plan for free on up to 4 cameras. So that's a $129 value per camera. That is one of the most incredible deals I've heard of in the trail camera world in recent memory here. If you want to run some live soakers all year round and be able to wake up and kind of get that little dopamine hit when you wake up and open up your phone and see those trail cam notifications, you can do that year round. Head on over to yellowstone.ai. And again, remember to use code Pierce Yellowstone at yellowstone.ai/friends. Whew, that was way faster than last week. Like significantly. That's good stuff. We're on a good start to this episode, I think. But folks, I have, as you saw in the cover of the episode and the title, you guys know him, you love him. Old Reliable, as we deemed him last year, the one and only Jacob Sklenar. Jacob, how we doing tonight?
Good, man. I could not predict what adjectives you were going to use there. I was thinking you were going to call me the side chick for a moment. Old Reliable is kind of right where I sit. I mean, I'm consistent, but nothing that exciting. So that works very well for me.
I don't know, man. I get excited every time we get to chat, man. We don't get to catch up too often.
Making me blush here.
Since our last podcast, when we deemed you Old Reliable, I actually learned a new what'd you call it? A new term in the podcasting world. The podcast booty call. Which I think pretty much sums up our last episode together. But luckily, this one was a little more proactive. I couldn't take you out to dinner before this, but I wish I could have. At least gave you some. At least gave you a little bit of heads up. Yeah, but dude, I'm stoked to have you back on the show. I'm stoked to be chatting deer with you as we start to look towards September here. Man, since the last time you were on the show, though, like, give us a little Jacob Sklenar life update here. What you've been up to, what's new, and yeah, what's going on in the world of Jacob?
There's always way too much stuff going on with me to keep track of. Since our last episode, I've gotten 8 hours of sleep total.
Hell yeah.
I think a year? That would be a new record for a year, I think. That's not an average, folks. That's just total. But I got a dog, training that dog. She's a yellow lab, but she's fox red color, so people will call her Red Lab. Her name's Scout, not to anyone's surprise that I named a dog Scout. Conversations can get really confusing in the household now, but she is taken to her training really well, and she's going to be an upland dog. So we're really excited about that. But she's showing a lot of prowess with shed hunting and duck hunting as well, which is really great. Because I am cheap, I got into trapping pigeons instead of buying pheasants. And I now have a pigeon coop right next to my window here. And I trap and sell pigeons on a daily basis and use them to train my dog and help other people train their dogs as well. So
Nice.
That's an interesting development. Tore my MCL and potentially my meniscus playing softball, which feels really dumb, but I did make the catch. My knee just didn't make it with me. So that has slowed me down, like not at all, actually. I just deal with the pain. So at the end of like expos that I've been to, my knee just swells up and looks like a softball, ironically.
Oh.
So there's that. And I learned this past weekend while I was at my first expo ever as a vendor, representing the wild calling at the Mobile Hunter Expo in Ohio. I had a blast, but I also learned that I may just be, and I don't ever say I'm good at anything, Pierce, you can attest to this, I may be the best big buck hunter player in the Midwest. I might be. And I'm embarrassed by that.
Embarrassed? No way, dude.
Well, I own this game, and I hosted this competition at my booth for people, and I was like, well, I want to give people entries for like a free Osseo jacket anytime they beat like the Hunter Hero records, right? So like if they beat a site record, or if they get, I was like, what's like a bar where I'm not just handing out a ton of invites, like a ton of entries, and I was charging people like $1 to enter this competition. But I let them play for free if they weren't, if I didn't keep their scores for the competition. I was like, well, to me, what would be tough is if you get 5 perfect sites and a perfect bonus site like that. If you get perfect sites total and you shoot 25 to 25 turkeys, for instance, then, that would be tough for me. That's worth a point. And then I was like, if you beat any of my bonus sites, like if you get a new Hunter Hero, like you're going to get an entry and stuff like that. So I was like, I set the bar where I would like be like, okay, well, this makes sense, because the other way that you could get 5 entries was buying a shirt or buying a sweatshirt for my merch. And I was like, I think that those things are equivalent, right? I'm only charging you $1 to play. People are going to get entries left and right, and I want it to mean something, and I also want people to be incentivized to buy clothing. And no one got even remotely close, and I felt kind of bad, and I was like, wow, I'm kind of a jerk for setting it like this. So I ended up.
What was the mark? Like, what was the spread? How big of a gap are we talking here?
I think the most perfect sites, and this might, we're from Wisconsin, so that like we grew up playing this, but like I think the most perfect sites that anyone got was 2 or 3. Which means like that they shot. Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah. And I checked to make sure it wasn't like on hard mode. I made sure it was calibrated every day. Like she was good to go. So, I don't know. There was some kids that were running the machine though, a lot, that they were just having a blast playing. There were some Amish kids that played quite a bit, which was really cool to see. Yeah. So, and I met a ton of like really, really awesome people. People that have been fans for a while. I didn't think anyone would even know me in Ohio. I had the honor of signing a hat for a kid that also had Jake Bush and Dan Infalt signed. So like to be even remotely close to that conversation of like, I'm worthy of being next to their signatures on a hat was like a big deal for me. So that was like, yeah, dude, it was super cool. And, just met a ton of really great people, got to chop it up with the Latitude guys and Osseo guys again. Which I don't get to see them super often. So that was great. It was a ton of fun, but I'm debating if it wouldn't, and I've never brought this up to Pierce, but if it wouldn't distract from the really awesome seminars that are going on, I could toss my big buck hunter game in the back of my truck and bring it
Oh, no.
and host an impromptu competition. But yeah, I got film of Dan playing his first round ever of Big Buck Hunter.
Really?
Dude, it was interesting.
How do you live your whole life where Dan lives?
Dan lives 3 minutes down the road from 4 bars that have Big Buck Hunter. So I was like, Dan, you ever play Big Buck Hunter? And he's like, dude, I do it in real life. And I was like, what? No, the game. And he's like, what is that? I'm like, it's right here across the aisle from you at my booth. And so he came over and he was like, so how does this work? And I was like, well, you pump it and shoot, like a normal pump shotgun. You have unlimited shots, and it's basically the best deer drive you've ever been on every single round. But you can't shoot does, and you don't really get it. And I figured he wouldn't care about score. I was like, you don't get penalized for missing, but you have to shoot animals either in vital areas or up to 3 times. And he's like, okay. So he went through his first round, and I got this on video. And I'm going to try to quote it here, but it might not be perfect, but the premise is perfect. He was playing, and he played the first round, and he shot each animal like once, like at least once, but he didn't kill any of them. Mm-hmm. And it says he got away, like on the screen. And I told Dan, like, this game's not realistic at all, And so he looked at me and he's like, dude, I just wounded everything. And then he like paused for a second. He's like, this game is really realistic. Just started dying laughing. I thought it was so damn funny. And so he was like, he played before the show started, and then he went back to his booth, and then I think he wanted to play again. He played at least one more time, but then like these kids were playing, and they were doing pretty well. Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, I better not play again.
That's hilarious.
Kids just like playing round after round. It was a ton of fun. It was such a good time.
That's so sick. Where was that at? That was out in Ohio, right?
Yeah, that was in Ohio. And
gotcha.
Yeah, I got to talk to obviously the guys that run the expo, I absolutely love, like Chris Leppert, Josh Luck, Rick Cates, Tyler Sparks, Martin Ringeson, like a bunch of these guys come to mind. There's a ton others. And then I got to talk to my buddy Derek Craig, and he got me oriented on how to film better because I have a nice camera, but not all my settings were right. And so I always appreciate him. I call him Camera Dad. It was cool, man. I got to learn a ton of stuff, be on a different side of a table than I normally am in terms of owning the booth. Dealt with a ton of fiascos on the way down and way up, but what else would you expect from a Sklenar? And it was just a good time.
That's awesome, dude. Did a lot of people, was it primarily local attendees, or was it were there quite a few people that traveled for it?
There were a lot of people that traveled for it.
Nice.
There was one guy, gosh, I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. Super nice guy. Actually, I ended up grabbing dinner with him too. He was a guy from Texas that's a big fan of the expos. He stayed for a couple days with his wife. Gosh, I'm so pissed that I'm blanking. Miguel something, I believe. But he's a super nice guy. Came from Texas. I talked to many people from the South. Vendors came from all over. A lot of different people from all over the states. There was plenty of Wisconsinites there, which is pretty cool because it was like a 7-hour drive for me, and I'm in southern Wisconsin. So,
right.
It was great. A lot of people from near and far.
That's super cool, dude. The only reason I asked that is because, obviously it's a growing expo for sure over the last handful of years that you guys have been doing it. And I'm not sure how long you've been connected with the Mobile Hunter guys, but actually, before I get to my other thought, what's the status of the Mobile Hunter podcast right now? Are you still co-hosting on that at all? Or
we never really I don't know. We never really cut anything, so to speak. Yeah. So I was involved in the I had Wild Culling Wednesday series on there.
That's right.
And I was hosting that solo, and we organically finished a season of that. And I wanted to start my own podcast, and there was intention of me to do that, and I just don't have time for it, honestly. I've cut the fat everywhere I could, especially on sleep, and I just don't have the time to be any sort of healthy mentally or physically and do that. So I commemorate you, Pierce, but a lot of that time for me goes into editing right now, and I need to do a lot more of that than I have been. I don't think I've even updated the fans that I got a new house since we've last talked, but there's that too, and a bunch of stuff.
Right.
Of stuff going wrong and right with that.
Were you married by the time we recorded our last episode?
Something like, I don't know. I just had my
Just
1 year
you're
anniversary.
closing in on, that's right.
Yeah.
1 year of marriage on top of it all, dude. Yeah, you're a busy fella.
Yeah, but as far as that podcast goes, and then I was co-hosting the Whitetail Apprentice series 1.0 and 2.0. 2.0, we were interviewing a bunch of people that had their had doctorates, and they were, basically presenting their thesis to us, and we were talking to them about their research and all. It was amazing. But a lot of these people
like deer researchers.
Yeah, like we did.
That's sick.
I believe we did Mariah Boggust. We did Dr. Bronson Strickland, MSU Deer Lab guys. There was a ton of other people from all over that. It was just, it was a freaking blast. And I'm such a nerd. Like, I just loved it so much. And a lot of the times when they could accept an interview would be like 1 p.m., 12 p.m., 2 p.m., and I'd be at work. So I would try to, when we were doing that series, like take a lunch if I could and just like hop in for 45 minutes and try to like interview for a little bit then and like sit in a work conference room and do it, which was awkward. But it was very difficult for me to kind of like jive with that schedule. So they had to do a few episodes of that series without me, which was kind of tough. But we haven't like revamped that series at all. And, that they're so busy with getting these expos running, it's not even like a question to ask. So I'm sure that like being on there in any capacity is not, ruled out at all, but there's so many more important things going on right now that it's like, any time that I would spend co-hosting that right now is taken up by, attending expos myself, helping set up stuff and editing and trying to get my dog trained and all these other crazy things that I'm doing.
Sure.
So it's not like I'm, hanging on every word for that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, dude. Well, I mean, I remember as those episodes were coming out, I saved almost all of them. And about this time every year, I go back and I listen to them because there's just, every time you listen to those conversations, you find another nugget or another thing that answers a question that you kind of forgot that you had from the season prior or whatever. But dude, some of those episodes with Warb, and I remember the one with Bronson Strickland, dude, they're fantastic. Your Jake Bush episode that I know a bunch of guys were resharing and stuff this last week, like, dude, that lights out episodes.
I saw Aaron at Huntstock like a couple weeks back. I actually got to meet all those guys, and man, A1 human beings, I gotta say. Like, we hung out with them outside the expo a little bit, and like, just they're so authentically exactly who they are. They're great. But I remember like walking up to Aaron, I'm like, this guy's gonna have no freaking clue who I am, and we were talking, I think, to Dylan Hazen, and I like shook his hand and said, "Hey, I'm Jacob." He's like, "I know who you are," and it was just kind of funny. It was like, I was like, why would I ever think Aaron Warburton would forget anything that pertains to hunting? And especially, I was like, yeah, I was the idiot that annoyed you for 3 hours on a podcast when you probably wanted to go to bed. And he's like, no. And I was like, yeah, there's probably some truth in that statement. Let's be real here. But it's funny, like people repost those episodes and I'll just see like the thumbnail and Josh made a lot of those thumbnails. And I'm like, damn, that's like a great idea for a podcast. And that guest is perfect for that. And I like click on it and I'll start talking. I'm like, oh, I'm in this one. Like, I was like, I totally forgot I did this interview. And then I have like this note sheet. I look back at the note sheet. I'm like, man, I should just listen to this again. Like, this is a really good episode. But yeah, that series 1 and series 2, like there's just not, I don't know. I don't think there's anything that systematically breaks down an approach to deer hunting or information about deer hunting the way that does. I think there's a lot of great podcasts that maybe are like individually extremely special on a ton of different podcast platforms. That, there's stuff that I've done with Jake Bush, and there's stuff that the Southern Outdoorsmen have done, and Bo at East Meets West, and a lot of the stuff that we've talked about and other people have talked about on Wisconsin Sportsman and Nine Finger Chronicles and everything like that, and Wired to Hunt, all these episodes that are like, I would deem like one of the best and most informational in that niche of all time. But I've never seen a series that was so structured to check each of those boxes in an intentional sequential order that covered your entire deer season prep through kill and afterward. And man, I don't know if there will ever be anything like that. And I almost don't want to make a 3.0 version, because I don't want it to become unoriginal and I don't want it to become saturated, because it was just so special the way that it was,
Right. They're master classes. Like they're correct me if I'm wrong, most of them were truly long form conversation,
Oh,
like
very.
exceeding 2 hours, some of them touching 3, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so few podcasts in the hunting space that have that level of depth to them, right? And that actually commit that much time. Because I mean, shoot, we're all busy. It's tough, as you know, it's tough coordinating schedules and everything throughout the season, especially in season. Like, I mean, guys are busy trying to just keep tabs on the deer that they're after and the properties they're on, and make sure that you're just everything keeps on running, right? But I mean, dude, those long form conversations and just letting them kind of take that natural direction wherever it is, kind of letting, like, I don't know, the war episode is one that just jumps out to my mind or whatever, because you can just kind of see like the track that his thought process follows as he like picks through things, and you're like, oh, I would have thought we'd go a different direction off of that, and he's like, no, there's way more here, and it takes you to this direction. I remember talking the first time I interviewed him. I remember asking questions and just thinking to myself as I was asking him, like, I'm scratching the surface on this guy's knowledge right now. Like, I'm not even asking the right questions. Holy crap. Like
the last thing I'll say on this is that, like, we had plans for each person, because like we didn't want someone with such valuable time to spend so much of it with us and us to waste it. And, you know, we would almost never get through the end of our list of questions, but it's like we ask things sequentially to try and excite a thought out of a person. And we would spend just as long developing the question list as we would the podcast. And then we would not end up using it in its entirety every single time, because it was so important for us to react to what they were saying and evolve with them, you know, kind of like the way you would on a hunt or in a chase with a deer. We would allow their responses to evolve the conversation. And every once in a while, you would pitch them a question to try to make a point to a viewer, right? Like you would, Dan would talk about, let's say, if we interviewed Dan Infault and we were like, why is it important you take this access route? And what would happen if you went the other direction? And we would try to be getting him to say, well, my wind would be going in the wrong direction. And, I don't believe in scent control, and this is why I'm careful. We'd try to like say something that would help them guide the viewer to this important realization. And it was so interesting that they could take either roads, and we'd be like 85% sure that we were about to guide them down this line of thought. And the amount of times we were right was like, it was like a toss of a coin, you know. It was so cool to see them, the people in these podcasts, start to think so in depth through that line of thinking that they would kind of not grow their understanding, but maybe say some stuff they've never said before, you know, like go deeper into that information they ever have before. And it was all like a product of getting them to go sequentially, like in a chronological order through a thought process and putting them in that situation, and then, suggesting a choice. And then when they took that choice, it was like, this is where the gloves are off. This is where we don't know where they're going to go. And they would go in awesome directions, and we'd learn so much. And I mean, Josh and Chris and I would have to mute our mics because we'd be like giggling like schoolgirls on the other side. Like, this is so cool. We'd just be like nerding out. But it was so awesome to see that. And I think it just went way deeper than a lot of conversations go. And we were just so lucky for, the stars to align like that. I don't even know how possible it is with how busy everyone is, versus 2 years ago. But man, it was very special.
Yeah, 100%, dude. It's crazy that was already 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That's nuts, dude. I I can remember exactly where I was driving, listening to some of those episodes, like on my way to and from trout streams back in August. Then, man, dude, that's awesome. I'm right there with you, dude. I would love to hear more of them, but at the same time, you don't want to try and capture lightning in a bottle too much, and then risk something coming out as inauthentic, like you said. Not that I'm worried about that with you guys. I mean, you guys,
I understand.
You together are extremely authentic individuals for sure.
Well, thank you.
And you asked the right questions. But before we move on, I forget where we got going there. But I did a little
dumb stuff going on in my life.
All right. Well, this is circling back to the big buck hunter. I did do a quick search as you were talking about that, and I think there is maybe some merit in the idea that if you didn't grow up around big buck hunter, there's a chance that you're not going to be any good at it, because it was invented down in Glen Ellen, Illinois, just like an hour and a half south of where you're at there.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's born and raised right there. I mean,
dude,
we had no choice but to be good at big buck hunter.
When people find out I have a game, they're like, how often are you playing? Are you just down there every week? And I'm like, dude, I don't play that thing for, like, I haven't played it since I moved in this house. I've been in this house for 7 months. Mm-hmm. So like, I grew up playing it. Like when we went to Cabela's, my dad would expect to give me $5 and I'd play at least 5 rounds of big buck hunter, you know? And then, or $6, which meant I could play, you know, three sites, you know, 3 of the full experiences.
Yeah.
And, you know, then every time that he would go to catch up with friends or my mom would have pool league, like my babysitter was big buck hunter. When I was 6 years old, or when I was 8 years old, and I was or 7 years old, yeah, something like that. I was in first grade, and I wanted to have my birthday party at a bar called what was it called? Something egg. It was like the Rotten Egg or something. I don't know, something like that. I wanted to have my birthday party at my 8th birthday party at this bar because it had a big buck hunter in the back. Like, and it was just, it was a, you can smoke in this bar kind of bar. Like, yep. No wonder I turned out the way I did. But like, I was obsessed with the game when I was younger, and I would like, at arcades, I would be like looking under machines trying to find coins to play big buck hunter and stuff. I would like connect straws together and like pull coins out and stuff. So, dude, like I was obsessed with it. I was at a bachelor party the other day and I played probably 8 rounds of it at the bar while everyone was singing karaoke. So like, I just love it. It reminds me of like going to Cabela's with my dad and like hanging out with him and hanging out with family and cousins and all playing it together. And like, I don't know, I'm pretty good at it, I guess, but I don't play it that often. It's like, it's like riding a bike for me, you know?
Yeah. Dude, that needs to be like in your LinkedIn bio. My babysitter was big buck hunter. Just really let people know.
I mean, that's the only thing they get me to shut up and stop moving for a little bit. So,
Jacob, describe yourself in one sentence, please. Well, my babysitter was big buck hunter. Yeah. So do with that what you will.
Right. That's spot on.
That's awesome, dude. I love it, man. On the note of like Huntstock and the Mobile Hunter Expo and everything, you've obviously, you know, built a pretty impressive network of outdoorsmen over the last several years here as you've gotten your footing with wild calling and, you know, just had all the experiences that you've had. Who are some of the people that come to mind, like that you would say kind of, I don't know, really helped shoot you up the learning curve in your hunting career? And like in what ways?
Well,
hey guys, I just wanted to take a quick sec to tell you about Lone Wolf Custom Gear. Lone Wolf Custom Gear is as good as it gets when it comes to mobile hunting equipment. Whether you're a saddle or stand guy, public land or private, Lone Wolf Custom Gear has a set of sticks, a stand, a camera arm, and any number of accessories to get you closer to your target buck. To make it even better, everything is 100% USA sourced and made right here in the Midwest. And it's even assembled right across the river in Iowa by hunters who love chasing deer just as much as you do. To build your kit today, go visit lonewolfcustomgear.com. Now, let's get back to the episode.
The way I see it right now with like, I think there's a separation between how good of a hunter you are necessarily. Like, I don't consider myself like this amazing hunter or anything like that. Like I said, I don't really consider myself good at anything, but the big buck hunter is undeniable at this point. I had people mad at me, so like whatever. You know, I don't consider myself that good of a deer hunter. I think I work really hard to make good videos. I think I'm okay at doing that, but I don't think I get good enough film. Like if I'm giving you my own mental process of myself. And it's really puzzling to me how blessed I've been to get to know the people I know. Like if you consider this a question of like status, I don't believe I have any status, but I think the people I've been able to get to know is really cool. You know, like I think it's really awesome that, you know, I can call Jake Bush a really close friend because I look up to him more than like anyone. And as far as influencing me as a person, he, and probably as a hunter too, he's done more than anyone in this space without a doubt. Like, man, like I can't say enough good things about him and how he's helped orient my life just as a figure in general. You know, I think that there's a lot of people that come to mind that have showed me how to be a good young man, a good husband, I think Dan Infault has contributed a lot to that by telling me about the mistakes he believed he made, where he was too obsessed, and he saw that early in me. He saw how much I loved this and how much I wanted to kill big deer, and he cautioned that from the first time we met with me, and it made a huge difference in my life. There's a ton of people just by proxy. I mean, I Josh Talker being one of those really, really high quality human beings. There's a ton of people just by observation that have influenced me, like Andy May, very, very good hunter. He just got married this last weekend. Just seeing how he is there for his kids and stuff like that. I talked to DJ Riley a ton this last weekend about that, how he is always there for his kids and he posts it just as proudly as he would any deer. Like, that means a ton to me to see. And I just met him in person like this weekend, so like, and we've talked before, but it's just like, there's a ton of people that have influenced me as a human being that I've been just so lucky to come in contact with. Part of that was, Chris and Josh and the Mobile Hunter Expo and having that podcast, getting in short contact with people through podcasts was just so amazing, so beneficial. I still don't think I'm worthy of the interaction I've had with certain people. Like, I don't think I should be in the same conversation as Dan and Jake Bush to sign a hat. I don't think that I'm someone that's worthy of getting an autograph. But you'll notice the way I answer this question is first, like, who are the people that help me become who I am? Mm-hmm. And that's what matters way more than any deer on the wall or how I got good at deer hunting
For sure.
Good. We'll say good because some people kind of impose that upon me, but like, that means nothing compared to like who I am as a person. And if I were to be a crappy person and lose, all of that, but be awesome at deer hunting, it would be the epitome of a waste of a human being, to get wrapped up in something egotistical and something that boosts my status and lose sight of what I can become through it and the lessons that God teaches me through it. That would be just the ultimate failure and waste of space, in my opinion. And I can't thank those people enough for that. Ironically, a lot of those people are the same people that helped me become very good as a deer hunter. And I don't know if that's because I've gravitated to them as figures that I would like to listen to, because if I'm listening to them about one thing, I'm going to listen to them about the next. I think as well, the things that enamor me about the outdoors is the human experience. I was talking to Zach Fehrenbaugh about this quite a bit. And we just got in a really good conversation about cell cams and all sorts of different like passionate things. And I say passionate as in like each of us could get, fired up in a good and sometimes bad way about a bunch of different topics. But it remained a conversation, which was really cool with Zach. Like, he was always like trying to exchange thought, listening to what you're saying and stuff like that. And I just talked to him about how worthless it seems to get hung up on the outcome of hunts and factors of ego, like the size of a deer and things like that. And how I gravitate towards really good hunters, but I don't ask them about hunting. I ask them, like, how do you at this high level do what you do and then manage the rest of your life? And you kind of like find out that some of them are really good at it, some of them are bad at it, but all of them have something they can teach you. And it's kind of funny to talk to people that you admire and see them get surprised by that question, because they hadn't considered whether they were being good at life. They considered whether they were being good at killing deer. And it's a different stroke for different folks situation, but I could never find myself there, So that is kind of the people I gravitate towards. They've taught me a ton about hunting through everything that everyone has access to, podcasts, videos, sometimes hunting with them. But like, there's not a magic juice, guys, listening to this. Like, there's not something you're going to get in a in-person conversation that's just going to completely change your mind. There may be some aha moments. There may be some valuable things like that in that series we were talking about. But like, the key is just going out there and doing it as much as you can, and then just not judging yourself as a person or as a hunter for the success you faced, because every one of us is in a different situation. Every one of us has different amounts of time, different amounts of money, different pressure, different access to public land, different access to private land, different quality of deer, different density of deer. Like it's really easy to lose in our conversation of Jake Bush. He's got 4 booners on the wall. He's given a lecture next to this weekend, and they're gigantic freaking deer. And you're like, wow, that guy must be rolling in deer. And he saw 10 deer last year on 50 hunts. Like he's doing that in an area with 1 deer, not buck, 1 deer per square mile. That is freaking insane, but that's a very different hunt than what, let's say, Dan is doing where I am here. There's a lot greater density of good bucks. And if you want to target a specific buck, there's a ton of bucks that make that sign. There's a ton of bucks that could make that sign. You're looking for a genetic anomaly, where a genetic anomaly might be the only deer within a mile, of Jake. So like he's honing in on sign, but those deer don't have to make as much sign because they're not communicating with the giant herd of deer. So how do you handle those situations, right? They're complete different situations that some skills apply, some skills don't. So like no one person is going to have or be able to cover all the situations and give you all the right answers. And I feel like that's the thing I've learned most from talking to so many people and being blessed with this much interaction is that there's a ton of different tools you can use and you have to use them in the right way. And you can't like just narrow yourself to one approach. I know there's like a super, super roundabout way of answering your question, but like,
no, dude, that was awesome.
I feel like I'm just so passionate about the people in the outdoors more so than the deer or the killing or success or whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm. Dude, well, I mean, that was a perfect answer because I couldn't agree more. I'm so glad that you pointed out that it's like if you're looking for the wrong thing, you're asking the wrong question, like you're not going to find it. You're going to get the wrong answer, right? If you're only focused on deer, if you're only focused on how are you going to do this and how do I need to access this piece or like how do I figure out what this buck's doing, that's all great and it might help you, this season or down the road or whatever. But like you said, if you're not gravitating towards the right people, like that's what's going to propel you furthest down the road in the long run and set you up for really the most full and whole experience that hunting has to offer. Not just hunting, but I mean life in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure, like you said, you talked to DJ for the first time. You talked to him quite a bit this summer, and like, I mean, these are relationships that just, they start with deer hunting and like maybe a deer hunting related question, but there's so much more enriching connection that can be made through those things outside of it. Honestly, the biggest bummer with all of the stuff that you and I do and everything is like we never get to see anybody except for like the expo season.
Right.
It's like I mean we were able to do that 3D shoot not this summer but last summer, and we see each other at the open season expo. But aside from that, it's like we're pen pals with most of the time.
I was telling my wife and my dad came with me to help with the booth and sell and stuff like that, to like track sales and they were just, I mean, they're such a blessing and really cool to have people meet them and say such positive things about them too, because they deserve it, more so than I do even to support this crazy crap that I do. But it's just like, yeah, I mean, I totally forgot where I was going with that because I just got hung up on how much I enjoy them. But, oh yeah,
good problem.
I was like, guys, we're not going to sleep. I was like, you guys can go up to the room, but like, I'm not sleeping. Like I'm staying up all night. Like I'm like taking advantage of every moment I have with these people. Cause I might never see them again,
Mm-hmm.
like it's so important for me to like grasp that. And, yeah, I mean, at the risk of talking people's ears off every now and then too, like I just love being able to have a real in-person conversation and pull from their minds. A funny tidbit. So like I can, as a viewer, what I would be asking right now of myself is, all right, you have these cool relationships and you have these people you've learned from. How do I get that? Like how do I, because I've been in that seat and I am in that seat still in many situations. Like how do I interact with the people I want to interact with? And I remember learning that THP was going to be across from the Osseo booth when we went to Huntstock. And I was like, damn, like I want to actually meet some of these guys in person that I've talked to. And like, I don't know anyone that orients as well as I do in the different facets that each person in that group like checks a box, like Nick Andrews with the way he like cooks and stuff like that. Like I had all these things I wanted to talk to Nick Andrews about, with utilizing a deer and what it means to provide for people. And I really wanted to talk to Aaron, obviously, about all the nerdy things with whitetails, and I wanted to talk to him about, getting his sons involved and his kid involved, and just his dynamic with family and how he makes that work with all the traveling and stuff like that. I wanted to talk to Zach about the knee problems I was having and all the stuff that goes down with that, and moving out west and how that changed his life. Fortunately, I got to talk to them about all these things. I wanted to talk to Greg about cameras and videos and the editing process and how that works with exchanging video between people. And I had this list in my phone of like all these things I was going to talk about. And then I remember I knew Nick probably the best of the group. And there would be this thing when the show was kind of dead. The guys at our booth, we'd take turns and be like, go for a walk. You just tell someone, go for a walk, go check out some booths, come back refreshed, and we'll rotate so we can take kind of a break. And they tell me to go for a walk. I'm like, well, I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to walk across the aisle and talk to these people. And I was like, they're like, then do it. And I'm like, but I don't want to take time away from other people. Like, I don't know how. I was just like psyching myself out. I was like, I had conversations with these guys already, so it was like weird. And I remember I was like, do I think of like a joke to say or to like try to be funny? Or like, like what do I do? Or
it's like going up to a girl at the bar almost.
Yeah,
like,
dude. And I was like, why am I being such a wuss about this? And so then John David Kate, which is a good buddy that's running the shows for Osseo now, he was like, he used a lot more colorful language than I'm about to use, which is great because it's the perfect way for me to receive it. But he's like, I'm trying to think of the way I can put this that's podcast acceptable. But he's like, why are you being such a girl about this? He's like, just go talk to him. And I was like, yeah, it kind of is that simple, right? Like, and yeah, I remember I was talking to Nick just about stuff and organically, and then I ended up talking to Whitney, Zach's girlfriend, and I realized that like I wanted to talk to probably her more than anyone because I care most about getting Caitlin into hunting. And it was kind of like that transformation of like talking to her about like all the things that she's gone through, getting further into it, and this. I mean, really, they handle things amazingly, but and how that dynamic works with traveling and stuff like that, I was so enamored with that, and I was thinking of all these strategies as I was listening to her talk about what I could employ with Caitlin, and like how those things could work in my life, and how how I could maybe add to her experience and with the experiences I've gone through. And it was kind of like an icebreaker to talking to Zach. And I just realized that like, it was like, oh, I just need to, these are normal people. Like, I just need to care about something and be authentic in what I care about. And they want to hear that too. Like, they want to gravitate towards that, and I'm not going to go up to them and be like, well, I got this buck on camera and these are the pins. And I'm like thinking he's going about, like they talk about that stuff all day long. So I just remember like one of the first conversations Zach and I had was like, yeah, what's like the hardest thing you ever went through in your life? And like, how did hunting help? Is the gist of what we ended up talking about. And it was like, man, these are the conversations I was praying that I got to have with people. And I was thinking about like, I got to do this, I got to get to know them. And then it's going to be like months down the road. And then I can start talking about what I want to. And it was just like, man, I just had to be myself. Like I just had to, and it sounds so stupid and simple, like something your mom would tell you how to make friends in kindergarten with, but like you just be an authentic person that enjoys the outdoors. And if people gravitate towards that, then great. If they don't, then just keep having fun in the outdoors. And when you meet someone in a parking lot on public land, treat them as if they're Zach Fehrenbaugh or Aaron Warburton or Pierce Nellis or someone as cool as that, and just have that conversation with them. Like, you just are genuinely curious about their life and you have something to learn from them. And then don't think about what you're going to say. Actually listen to what they're saying and take your time. Let there be awkward silence. Formulate a response that matters and just talk to them, And I feel like that is ironically what so many people miss, like every conversation that I've heard fans have with Dan has been like, either answer this question that you've heard 1,000 times, which is fine. He's happy to answer it and interact, and everyone loves talking about deer. Or it's been like a way to establish yourself. Like, you don't want to be a fan, so you try to establish yourself as a peer, and you're like, yeah, I do this, and I shot this deer, and it's a big buck, and I feel like I got this figured out, and like, thanks for what you did, but like, I kind of got it figured out now, like, and that's even more disgusting than just genuinely being curious and asking questions.
Right.
So, I mean, I feel like if your goal was to develop relationships like that, let them happen organically. DMs aren't always the best place to start things like that, but like, just be a normal dude, because every normal dude has some interesting thing they've gone through or interesting experience that is worth sharing and hearing. You just gotta, not limit yourself so much and try to be interesting, because life is interesting.
Yeah, dude, exactly. We've all got different paths that led us to the same spot, at that expo, for example, or like I look forward to it every single year, the Lone Wolf Custom Gear, their Whitetail Roadshow that they've been doing for the last 6 years now, 7 years. Because it is just that, like, it's literally, I remember the first time, I was like, okay, we're going to the Lone Wolf Custom Gear headquarters. Like, holy shit, this is going to be something here. And then we get there, and it's literally, I mean, Andre's house, you know what I mean? Like, their barn, just that they moved all the stuff out of and cleared out and set up a bunch of chairs and, projectors and booths and stuff like that. And it's like we're all just people, like, living, you know what I mean?
Right.
And, most of those people, like, you've got some of these big names, like, I mean, the Heath Siskos and Justin Hollinsworth, and I mean, Andre and Cody obviously floating around, and Josh Christic, and guys who it's like, holy smokes, like, I've watched those guys' addictions videos for how long, and like seen them, put how many deer on the ground that are just insane. And I mean, you go up and talk to them, and they are concerned with all the same exact BS that we all are. And like, dude, one of the questions that I found, at least in person and stuff, to get like just that conversation going in any sort of regard, is just say like, hey, dude, how was your season last year? Or have something like that, where it's like, because you don't know, it could have been the worst season of their life, it could have been the best season of their life. Like, you don't know where they're at. They could have just struggled and struggled and struggled and finally had it. Either way, you're gonna, there's a story to connect to in there, right? I mean, from there, then usually that, I don't know, that, and ask more questions than don't feel like you said, yeah, exactly, don't feel like you need to like have a response ready, like, genuinely listen. I love that.
Everyone's just a guy being a dude, like, or a girl being a gal, like, that's just what it is. And like, there's I feel like your question's great, and sometimes that question gets asked, and the cookie cutter response is like my season was like this, or they'll ask how your season was, you go with that. But I feel like the best question you could ever follow up with after that is, and what did that teach you? Like, what did you learn from that? Like,
totally.
Like, how did that experience, how will you approach that situation differently in the future? Like genuinely don't think about you can think about the response, right? But like, Zach and I, not to just freaking name drop Zach and left and right or whatever, but like, we were talking about cell cameras, and, we're sitting down at a table, and he was saying, yeah, it just irks me when someone has an unfair advantage over other people. And I was like, well, that's not your point. And he's like, what? And I'm like, your point, I think what really bothers you is like, you got to ask yourself why that bothers you, like, because what's so interesting about you is you care so much about the experience in the outdoors and passing it out to other people. And it's so clear. And if you just approach that conversation as like, I want more outdoorsmen in the woods, and I don't think that this is the way for people to have a long-lasting, sustaining, and enjoying experience in the outdoors, then like everyone would like just kind of like let their shoulders loose. They'd be like, oh, like this guy loves us and he wants us out there and he wants all the same things we do, and he's not like going about it the wrong way, but I'm just like, dude, it's such an essential thing to who you are, because everything you do in your life is oriented that way, towards bringing people together and helping and teaching and all these things. So like, emphasize that you love that and you want that for people. And he's like, that makes sense, and it's the same way. Instead of just listening to what they're saying, start to think about like, why does their mind think that way? Because like, if you can put yourself in the mind and you can evolve the same way that these guys you really want to talk to evolve, that is going to be way more beneficial than their answer on a yes/no basis. As an engineer, I kind of think about it in terms of like position, velocity, acceleration, right? So position is a point, right? Velocity is a direction, and acceleration can be going faster or slower in a given direction, right? So like all of those things kind of go a layer deeper than the next. But because you can have negative acceleration and still be traveling in the same direction if you're slowing down. Sorry to get all nerdy on you, but like I always want to go to the second power, right? I always want to go to, instead of x or x squared, I want to go further so that I can like dissect how can I, not emulate this person or not like, be the same as them, but like how can I go about problem solving the way that Aaron Warburton goes about problem solving, or Dan Infald or Chris Leopard or whoever, like, like I want to get not just the fish, but I want to be taught how to fish, and I want to know why they like fishing so much, and I want that to guide me, because if I can kind of let my brain work, not consciously, like what would Andy May do or whatever, but like if I can take all those valuable opinions and my mind subconsciously has kind of gathered them over time and found out what works for me and found out my problem solving process, then there's not going to be a problem that I can't at least come up with a solution to, no matter how much I want to paralysis by analysis myself. Like if I can think that way and just take it bite by bite, like I know that I'll evolve and become better, or I'll learn really well as a result when I fail. So I feel like that's the most beneficial thing to my entire game in life and hunting, is just constantly being curious and thinking about it a little bit deeper, not just asking why you're doing that, but what led you to think that way,
I love that, dude. That's been one of my biggest things, is like, okay, always be asking why. I love that. What led my brain to this why? That's a great way to peel back another layer there, dude. I love that. I'm curious. You mentioned earlier, you were talking with Zach's girlfriend at the expo and stuff, and kind of getting her take on some things. Being a year into marriage here, and obviously you and Caitlin have hunted together. I mean, she knows what your hunting means to you, and how much time you put into it and that kind of stuff. But I also know that last year, when we were talking, you had big plans of trying to get her into the woods for the first time, or she was going to be bow hunting that year and everything. After this last season, after that conversation and everything, what are some of the things you learned in that regard?
Well, I've learned she's way more into deer hunting than turkey hunting. And
Nice.
she like needs that failure to motivate her to go further. Like failure as in maybe like not seeing a deer, or like putting forth a lot of effort and not receiving the dopamine hit. Like she enjoys that. Like we went on a turkey hunt this year, and we went on a couple hunts. A couple of them didn't work out. And then we had one goblin from 200 yards away. It came in, I shot at 40 yards, and we were shaking, super excited. And after that, I was like, it's really cool, huh? How the goblin in your face and whatever. And she's like, yeah, but like, it's not like deer hunting. And I was like, she's like, I like deer hunting more. I'm like, you didn't even kill one last year. I was like, we went on like 15 sits together, and several times you were over your boots and you fell face first in the mud that time, and there were mosquitoes everywhere. And we only saw a couple deer all year in all those sits. It was a weird year. She's like, yeah, but it was so much more fun. Like she loves that. And if I like told myself that, oh, the way that she is going to cling to this is by shooting a deer and succeeding, I would have completely failed her, but I let her, kind of like what we've been talking about this whole episode, I let her tell me or show me, because she didn't know the answer, right? Like I let her discover hate to use it, what was calling to her. Discover your calling. It's on my shirts. But I let her kind of discover like what was innately bringing her, what kind of bound with her soul, not to get all spiritual on you here,
sure,
but like what bound with, like what really motivated her, what resonated with her. And I didn't ask her about it. Like I just let her figure it out. I guided her. I showed her the way. I showed her the way I go, what I do. And I just watched it. And it was just like this giddy little child, like seeing the person I love the most take to the thing I love the most. Like I just got to experience it, and I tried to make it the best for her possible. And dude, it was crazy. She shot a deer last year, and it didn't die. And for a girl whose number one concern was doing that and practicing archery for 3 years, I think it was even more than 3 years, before she ever brought a bow into the woods, and totally being ready, made a good shot on this deer, a shot that would have blasted through both sides for me, and deer would have died in 40 yards. She made an awesome shot. She held draw for a while too. She drew at the right time. She let down when she needed to. She drew again at the right time. Like, stopped the deer perfectly. Like, everything was perfect. Her shot went right where I would have put mine. And it, like, basically, the deer did a weird turn and it kind of like kicked off of the rib. It was just weird. It was super weird. I mean, everyone that saw that shot was like, maybe it's high, but it's almost certainly dead. You know, it's 10 yards and down and a steep downward angle. And it was like, I mean, I'd put that arrow there. Like, I wouldn't put the arrow in a different spot if I was using my bow. And like the thing that we were terrified of, it happened. And I'll give myself props in one category here. I told her that you cannot go in the bow, or you cannot go in the bow. You can't go in the woods with a bow or any weapon. You can't buy a tag until you accept that you may very well wound an animal. And you need to live with that reality, because if you accept the chances that you succeed, you also need to accept the chances that you fail. They're hand in hand. So you don't need to hunt after that happens, but you need to understand that this is the responsibility you hold. And preparing her for that was big, and having her understand that this happens to everyone was big. And for a lot of people, it happens early, you know, on your first few deer, more often than it happens in your later few, but it still continues to happen to everyone because it's a wild animal in a wild situation. And so she did not go into her hunting watching Realtree and, you know, monster bucks and the truth. You know, she got to see what real hunting was, and she got to experience it firsthand and be part of every aspect except the kill, until it was time for her to do it, you know? And so that was, I think, the best thing possible for her to, you know, if she only experienced a kill, then she only experiences the best part, and she doesn't fall in love with any other aspect. And when that goes wrong, she's got nothing else to cling to, you know? So I think the big thing was that get them introduced to every aspect, let them fall in love with the things they do, and let them hate the things they don't, but let them know it's part of the reality before they get into the reward. Because then all those things could have more power than the reward when their only buy-in is, I got to shoot a deer, you know?
Right.
When you just put something in their hands and they shoot one, it means nothing to them. Well, it sure meant a lot to Caitlin, because she did everything, you know, she did everything right. She scouted in the spring. She scouted in the summer. She set up trail cameras. She took down trail cameras. She packed stands in. She put up her stand. Like, she did everything, you know, and then she failed. And she was able to, after some crying and all the same things that I would have done in that situation, like, was able to get past it, and now is like more excited than anything. And she talks to me daily about shooting her bow and what she wants to do to get ready, and like all these different things she can be doing. And it's like, I mean, she sends, when I'm at work and she's off on Monday and Tuesdays, she sends me videos of her shooting and like her patterns, asks about my form while I'm at work. And it's just like, I'm really blessed to have that, but I think it happened because of the work she put in and because she was introduced to it in that manner. And Zach's girlfriend, Whitney, I don't want to speak too much on their relationship because, of one, I don't want to misquote, and two, I don't know if it's appropriate for me to do that, but
Sure.
It seemed like she was introduced before Zach, and Zach is just a great freaking dude. And that transition was a little more seamless than Caitlin, where she couldn't even watch a YouTube video of a hunt when we first met. And so it didn't take, I wouldn't never call it work, but it took more time and effort, that I really enjoyed, you know, to kind of get her involved. And if I could do it again, I wouldn't change a single thing.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. And like, I love what you said there about how, like, you wouldn't force her into it. You wouldn't be, I mean, there's no better way to introduce somebody than to let them find their way on it. Right. I love that you kind of gave the space to that. Like, obviously, like, anybody who knows you knows that, like, if you're going to go scouting with Jacob, you're going to get wet, and it's probably going to be cold or mosquito infested, or it's not for the faint of heart. Right. And so, I mean, for her to at least get to fall in love with that process on top of the process of, perfecting her shot and making sure that she was ready and everything, dude, it made me smile when you were talking about her sending videos of her archery form and everything. I remember when Sarah and I started dating, she obviously knew I was big into fly fishing and everything. And so I was living in Illinois at the time, moving back to Wisconsin sort of in the process. And so I'd run up there and I'd fish for trout. And she was like, well, those are way prettier than smallmouth. I want to catch trout now. And so I was like, all right, well, we'll go do that. And I was trying to teach her the cast, and she was like, well, like, can you leave an extra rod down here with me, like when you're out of town, so that I can practice? It was the same kind of thing. Like, she would be sending me videos of her in the backyard casting a fly rod and, asking for tweaks on the form and everything, dude. It's like, I don't know. It's so awesome. And just like, I don't know.
That's so
wholesome.
Cool.
It's so wholesome when you get that, that level of interest in something that you're interested in. You can like share that, with your partner and everything there, man. That's super cool. But, I forget where I was going with that. But I also, that was where I was going to say, like you said, not starting that journey off with we're going to get you into hunting and you're going to shoot a buck right off the bat. And that's going to be like, this is hunting, like, get into it. I love that. And I've wrestled with that question quite often, with folks who are, even with kids, potentially introducing kids super early, and that sort of not guaranteed success, but maybe doing the box blind on the tripod. And I'm not bashing that in any way, shape, or form. But, some of the stuff that you see, from some of the larger channels that you'll find on social media, stuff that's fun to watch, right? But I've wondered if getting a kid or introducing anyone to the sport that quickly, or to achieve success that quickly, is good or bad. And with that, I don't want to, cheapen's the wrong word, but you have less invested in it right off the bat than if you go, your first season, you wound a buck, for example, or you spend 3 years shooting your bow prior to even just buying a tag and all of that, or eating tag soup for a couple of years before it finally happens. I think that delayed gratification it sticks with you a heck of a lot more.
Some people need those intermittent successes too, or maybe a big one. You got to know the person you're teaching too. Totally. Caitlin's an adult too, so a little different situation there.
Definitely.
But like, I think, it's certainly backed by science, what you're talking about. So like for every action, there's equal opposite reaction. It also applies to the way that you release dopamine and you release cortisol whenever you're doing something fun. So like, you think about casinos, they're supposed to be like hit, right? Like hand, here's a hand, here's a hand, here's a hand, or pull the lever, press a button, all that stuff. So you get this dopamine hit anytime there's something lights up or something happens, but you also get an equal and opposite cortisol reaction that kind of like is like it's thought of. Dopamine is a motivation hormone. Cortisol is like a punishment hormone. So it's like basically giving you an equal punishment to make you go seek out that reward again. So you think about how this works in nature and why we were built this way. When you go out and find some berries and eat some berries, it's good for you. Like, you get that dopamine hit. But if you just stop when you just got those berries, you wouldn't continue to forage and get enough to sustain you and other people in your group. So it gives you a cortisol hit, like, oh, I got to go find more berries. That was great, So that's the low after the high, It sucks for me when I come away from these expos. Like, I get really freaking sad Sunday night when I come home, like, especially when I'm alone, if Caitlin's not around, because I don't have anyone to share it with. And I just had like all my good buddies around me. I'll just get like these weird like episodes of depression because I just had the coolest weekend ever. And I just want to share it with people and there's no one around, and it just like, that really sucks for me. So like with hunting, it's a similar thing. If you get the ultimate dopamine hit right off the bat and it didn't take any work to get that, what work are you going to be willing to put in to get the next one? I would love to have had Caitlin succeed very soon, but I don't got permission damn near anywhere. I kind of didn't really want that so much for her, but like, she had to experience the other aspects beforehand. It's interesting training my dog too. Like, I have to tell my parents, like, we can't give her a bunch of toys in the house. Like, she can have a shed antler to chew on and stuff, but like that's about it. Because when it comes to using those toys or a dummy or something to motivate her in training, if she has access to those 24/7s, who cares? She doesn't need to do crap for that thing, in the
Right.
field, because she's just going to walk back in the house and get it anyways. There's a bunch of stuff like that. Like, selfishly as a human being, like I would love for her to jump up me every time I get home and grab her and give her kisses and have her, do whatever. I would love for her to jump up on me and just give her a big hug. I would love that so much. But like when that happens to a little kid, she's going to hurt the kid, and it'll be my fault because I was selfish, and I wanted something for me. I'm not going to say any dad who is having their kid get into hunting is being selfish in any way, because that's absolutely false. But sometimes we want an experience for our loved ones that we remember as such an amazing part of the experience, but we forget all the things we went through to get to that. And that's why you have such a great memory of that experience and so much love for it, is because maybe the quality of the people around you and stuff like that are things you cling to. But oftentimes it's the work that it took to get there that creates an amplified dopamine hit. And it allows you to then deal with that cortisol and be like, well, it took so much to get there the first time. I'm willing to do that as many times as it takes. Instead of like, well, it really took no effort, And there was no room for me to teach her with the no effort strategy, because I mean, if you step into the woods on public land and you want to shoot a doe, you got to put in some effort,
Right.
pretty much anywhere you go, especially when there's a bunch of people around. Or if you want to have like an experience where you're away from people and there's a little bit of wonder, which is certainly the experience I want to give my wife, you got to work for it. And that's whether she wanted to or not, she was going to do that. And it turned out for the absolute best. And it's turned out great for our dog. I was just calling my wife on the way home from work today, and I was like, I can't believe how good she is. Like, she went through this crazy rebellious phase, and we held the line every time. Like, I was talking to Tyler Meaden, Okayest Hunter guy,
Mhm.
and he does training with dogs and stuff like that, and he gave so much great advice. And he would always say, like, set an expectation, and when you give a command, hold the line. Like, make that dog do that thing, no matter how much it takes. Don't be an ass about it. Your job is to be a mentor, be steadfast, be something that dog can look up to. Don't be emotional, be even keeled. And just reset. It's just, this is what we're going to do. When I give you a command, you're going to do it. Right. And we did that with a dog, and we would question ourselves over and over again. She would act different around other people and we made sure we had those uncomfortable conversations with other people. Like, you have to scold her. Like, you have to tell her no if she bites. You have to have her acknowledge that she was doing the wrong thing. You have to leave her alone. If she jumps up on you, you can't touch her. You can't reward her for that. And it was hard. Like, it was a pain. But now we're like seeing that she is just this, she loves us so much, and she's constantly looking for ways to obey us. And she's like recommending behaviors. We had like people come over all the time. They're like, I can't believe how good she is at that age and how happy she is to like be around you and all that stuff. Like, she's not a sad dog because she's disciplined.
Right.
And you see the same things in people and hunting and stuff like that.
Definitely, dude. That's super cool. That's got to be. I mean, we've got an older dog right now. She's going to be 10 in November, and she is steadfast in her ways. And I'm second fiddle to her around our house, unfortunately. But no, I couldn't agree more, dude. And just, yeah, it's, you're right. You're not being mean. Like, you're setting an expectation that, and I'm sure you have as well. You talk to some old school dog owners, or depending on what part of the country you're in, people's dog culture is very different, I think. But I mean, we're talking to some old guys in Iowa who are like, you got to make a dog's life hell for the first year of their life, and then you got a great dog the rest of their time. I'm like, I don't know about that,
Yeah,
but
not quite.
yeah, we can set some rules, maybe some expectations, and do some training rather than just kicking. But
when a bar means something for that dog to hit, and this
Mhm.
goes for people. Dogs are just like people that can't communicate, that you can see if you understand dogs' behavior and animal behavior, which believe me, I actually do understand animal behavior fairly well. And I can see it. I can see the similarities with her and deer and the way they act and move and twitch and everything. But like, they cannot hide their emotion or their thought. if you understand what they're telling you. And if you set the bar and it means nothing, it won't mean anything when they do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it wasn't hard for them to sit on their bed every time I'm making food, then it wouldn't mean anything when I congratulate her for doing it, or it wouldn't mean anything for her to go there because there's nothing coming. But anytime we're making food, anytime we're eating it, she goes to her bed. She knows to lay down and wait for us to be done. She got to be reminded every now and then, but like, she'll sit there for an hour if she has to. And it's cool because she is so damn excited when we tell her free, we tell her good
Right.
girl. She knows she just kicked ass at that command, and a ton of every time she's like eager to learn new things. Like she's losing her puppy teeth quite a bit. And I taught her to just keep her mouth open for me today. And she was so excited to learn that because it like was a new thing that she can do to make us happy. We taught her place at a really young age to get her used to standing on higher objects, jumping up, jumping down, and then standing on uneven surfaces so she can gain confidence when she's going over rocks and things like that. So she's not like twisting her ankles or whatever. And now she's like, whenever she wants to do something with us and she thinks that we're like kind of waiting on her. But I'm like looking at my phone trying to figure out this math thing or whatever. She will hop up on like the nearest cooler or object or something like that and just sit and stare at us with like a smile on her face. She's like, I did it. I did it. Come congratulate me. Like I did it. She like just because it meant something when she succeeded and it was difficult at first. She is so excited to show off that she can be such a good dog, and she will just suggest everything for you because she just wants you to be happy. And it is like that mutual respect of like, you're going to get the reward when you deserve it, but you're going to deserve it before you get it. That she is just like the happiest dog ever because of that discipline.
Totally. Dude, I love it. Absolutely, man. I want to switch gears here a little bit towards deer hunting.
Yeah, isn't that funny that we're doing
we've
that?
sort of talked. I know, right? I was like, we've sort of talked about deer hunting, but kind of the periphery of it, which I'm very happy about. One of the things that's been kind of eating at me is like you went to college at UW Platteville, spent 4 years there, 5 years? No,
5 deer seasons. So
yeah, 5 deer seasons there, right? You've since graduated, moved back to southeastern Wisconsin. While you were over in Platteville, you've got 5 years of hunting southern driftless region, kind of stuff, hill country, a lot bluffier, a lot more topography, a lot more ag, and kind of the stuff that you're dealing with now in the marshes and stuff. Now that you're kind of almost like you're equally experienced in both. I mean, I know you hunted, closer to home and stuff earlier. You guys would go up north and all that, but as you start to like think back on some of those hunts and stuff that you had when you were in, hill country versus where you're at now, are there aspects of it that you miss or prefer? Like, is there ever a day where you're like, gosh, I wish I could go hunt hill country for a season aside and like, leave the marsh behind? Like, do you have a preference between the two?
Yeah, all the time. I think about going back there. You caught me in a perfect time to ask this question because I'm going through a ton of old footage and making like vintage reels essentially from like all the hunts I've gone through. And I stumbled across this hunt that really like gets me where I, in 2 times in a day, am doing like a really slow perfect wind access. And I spot bucks bedded on hills like within 100 yards of me that have no clue I'm there and video them laying it out in their bed. And like one was a shooter. And it was like, I was like, man, I like showed my friend and I was like, dude, I used to be such a badass, but like, I can't do that here because I'd have to be within 6 inches of them, in the beds they're at now, to know they're there. But I just remember having a lot more time because I was in college and like, I didn't have a ton more time because of wrestling, but like when it wasn't wrestling season or when I wasn't competing on the weekend, like I would just go, and I had a lot more time in the spring and the summer to scout. And I just enjoyed that a lot. But from a terrain standpoint, I don't know if I prefer one because I think there are bigger deer where I'm at right now than where I was in college. But there's a ton more hunters and there is a ton more like hunter sign and people sign and there's the sounds of cities and stuff like that. And I remember talking to a friend about this last weekend. Man, I went out to Platteville to turkey hunt, and I went up by the Wisconsin River, and I remember just like going out for a turkey hunt and like quietly crying on a hill because I just missed it so much. Like I was like, man, I don't hear anything, and like there are mosquitoes and bugs everywhere, but I was like, I love this so much. Like I love being away from people, and I was like, there's not a cell camera. There were cameras and there were stands every here and there. And there's human sign, but I was like, it's not every 50 yards, you know?
Right.
And like, and I was alone and I was like, man, I just miss being alone. I found some fossils in a drainage. I like stopped turkey hunting and fossil hunted for like an hour. And I found a bunch of like Drury quartz, and I found fossils like built into that quartz. I found pieces of like an old seabed, and I was just like, this is so cool. I was like rock hounding it, and I was like, man, I could never get this back home. And I just remember like tearing up thinking of like how amazing it is to be in a wild area, you know, that like people get to but not too often. And how amazing it is to not worry about running into someone and to feel alone. Like that is such a cool feeling. And I just like I have such sentimental memories with that land, and it's probably because I don't get to experience it all the time that it's more special to me. I think there's bigger deer and potentially a higher population of deer where I'm at. And I think that in some ways, I mean, in most ways, it's much more difficult to hunt, particularly because of the pressure in the marshes.
Right.
But I think in some situations, it's a lot simpler than the hills. Like it is easier to pick out where they're at, but I think that doesn't necessarily make things easier because it's easier for other people to do the same. And there's a lot more of them. So if I had to pick one for life, I would certainly pick the hills. But if I had to pick one and there was the same amount of people on either one, I would pick, man, I really don't know. I might pick the marshes just from the size of deer, but if you make everything equal, like if you make the size of deer, the population, and the people equal, I really wouldn't be able to tell you. Like, I like the adventure. I don't know, always care about the deer so much. If you made everything equal, I'd pick the mountains out west. You know, like I want beauty, I want adventure, I want to get lost. Like I want to be in a little bit of danger. Like I truly do. And I don't know, I want to be closer to God through my experience. And I feel 100%. Like it's sometimes really disheartening, knowing the absolute inability I have to do that most of the time out here. So that could be really defeating. That's what really makes me sad about being in the city area, we'll call it. But yeah.
No, dude, rightfully so, man. And I mean, it's one of those things. I love that you said, like, I want to feel like just a little bit of danger. Like if I fell and blew out my knee, is it going to be pretty dicey? Yeah, right.
Very well could happen.
Not pointing any fingers here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like, could I get out? Would it be a little dicey getting out? Like, but I have a hell of a story.
Add some stakes to this shit, you know? Like give me some consequences, you know? Like put some pressure on it.
Exactly.
I thoroughly think that people stress so much today and have such uncontrolled anxiety because they don't know what it's like to almost die. Like we don't have a baseline for what real stress is. And I think that's the thing that like wrestling teaches you too, is like you are constantly in the most physically and mentally stressful situation. Like you can't eat. You know, like you can't eat. You're intentionally starving yourself and dehydrating yourself even harder than not eating. And then you're doing like the most physically demanding thing possible for 5 hours a day. And then you're also trying to get a college degree in engineering on top of it. You know, like all that, like that was real freaking stress. Like work ain't shit, man. Like, I don't know, man. I don't have a lot of negative things that go on at work either, but like, I just look at the stuff people would stress over. I'm like, that's a joke. Right. Like I was talking to Jake and Corey and a few other guys this weekend about like almost dying of heat stroke, and everyone had a story of it, and we're just sitting there laughing. Like I remember Hannah Bush was like standing next to Jake, and she's like, "Can't remember if this is the first time I'm hearing about this one or not," you know, because like we just wouldn't tell our wives maybe until afterward. Yeah. But we're just laughing about it, and it's like, man, that's such a healthy thing to be able to deal with that stress, and realize that like, well, I'm not dying, so it can't be that bad. So I kind of missed the feeling of being close to dying, like not actually dying, but like there's some stakes in this,
Yeah, totally. Dude, the last road show, we were all swapping stories about some of those trees that maybe shouldn't have been hung into, or like making a dicey mistake. You're not getting your strap all the way around the button or something like that. And you got to take that first step, and you test your tether, or test your lineman's belt and stuff like that. It's like, oh, yeah, that's what that's supposed to feel like. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I know last year you were in Kansas. I think you're going back this year again, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So you had a close call in Kansas. Your trip got cut short and everything like that. As you start looking towards Kansas this year, what are some of the things that you take from hunting here in Wisconsin to Kansas with you, or vice versa, just being in such a different terrain? It's more open, a lot more plainsy, for lack of a better term, stuff like that. You talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's like so different. It's like when you want it to be plains, it's river bottoms and small open hardwoods. And when you want it to be a thick river bottom, it's open. And when you want it to be this, it's that. You want it to be plains, it's ag, and when you want it to be ag, it's plains with no ag around. And you want it to be ag that's cut and it's tall. And, like there's always like a new challenge. And like when you want this drainage to yourself, all of a sudden here comes pressure when it all feels right. So it's just like but there's big bucks, and like there's always that wonder of like, you don't know if it's a 120 or a 200 coming at you, or it could be a Michigan 11 pointer, it could be a 2-incher, which I saw plenty of those too. So it's so interesting. It's so different. But I think the woodsmanship that never leaves me is like tracking, and it means a lot to see a big track in Kansas. It might not be that same deer coming back and forth. That deer might be running a 15-mile one-way, street to get through drainage after drainage after drainage after drainage, and river bottom after river bottom that connects. But seeing a big track to me like gives me a lot of confidence. Really, really, really fresh sign gives me a lot of confidence on the late end of October. The whole last week of October in Kansas, it was big to find fresh sign, big to be on scrapes. That made a big difference for me. And being able to identify when something is truly fresh versus when it looks fresh, that was huge. Because if one buck tailed a doe and it might be a giant, there's going to be other bucks in tow soon, but it's got to be within close time proximity, because these things are running loops. And when that doe is gone, it's gone. You get picked up from other angles. It's probably not 2 days removed that you're going to see a bunch of deer traffic following a doe. Maybe not even one. You got to be within that 24-hour period.
Right.
So I think really honing in on the different methods in which I find fresh sign was very beneficial last year and will be again. I think that not narrowing myself to one approach is big. I learned that in Nebraska a lot. The guys that were hanging and hunting really weren't having that much success. And when I was like either glassing or hanging when I needed to, or just actively tracking deer or whatever, right? Like using all those approaches and learning from what the deer were telling me made a big difference. I just really do hunt it quite differently than Wisconsin.
We get the opportunity to, right?
Yeah, I think that's the beauty about a state.
Yeah, definitely, dude. It puts you in a new element where you have to just kind of like all of a sudden go back to using all 5 senses, as much as possible, and really trying to dissect things. Not that you don't do it at home, but at home, I think it's easier to not get blind to certain things, but you kind of get into that mode of like, this is what I'm looking for this time of year, and I get keyed in on that. I know where it should be from past experience and all that, but
you fill in the gaps with other stimulus, and it doesn't make you ask those questions as often.
Totally.
You're like, I have this history that I don't need to go seek this because I have this history, or I don't need to seek this because I have that trail camera picture or whatever, right? Like, there are doubts that are almost automatically removed when you're at home, and you come okay with this acceptable amount of uncertainty. And out of state, you're always uncertain. Not really, but there's always more to be asked, and you have to become a little bit comfortable with that. The hard part is knowing when to cut it off, knowing when to be like, I have enough, I can stop, that's the hard part. But as long as you're mobile and you're willing to move, like, it's okay to screw up. You just learn and apply it somewhere else. Thinking of my best hunts out of state, I made a major boo-boo, and I now know what that deer was doing in that situation. And there have been many times that sadly, there's been 3 times probably that I have screwed up on the biggest deer of my life on a morning sit and then killed a deer on an afternoon sit that same day. I know it happened to Cam. It happened to Cam that one time, screwed up on the biggest deer of his life in the morning, and then shot the biggest deer of his life that was even bigger than the morning one in the afternoon. Like, taking what you learn from failure and applying it rather than getting pissed at yourself and sad is something that is like the epitome of the out of state playbook for me.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I'm laughing to myself because that last week when I spoke with Brian Dombrowski, we were talking about this and kind of that out of state mentality and how it's nice to be able to kind of shoot from the hip a little bit when you're out of state and keep asking those questions. But to what you just said, he also said, like, you got to know when, like, am I going to end up hurting myself more by scouting another 100 yards down this trail or into this bedding area or whatever? Or like, at what point do I have enough information to throw an educated sit at this area and make that happen, dude? I mean, I always kick myself because I get like FOMO and I start, I scout a bunch of different properties, or I have over the last couple of years. And then I get curious as late October comes around, if I feel like I've pressured a spot through, a little too early through early October or something, or mid-October. And then I'm like, well, I should rest that piece for now. I'm going to go check out this place. And then I check out that place and it's untouched, or it's, whatever. And I find all this fresh sign, and then I get giddy, and then I just like put all my chips in that bastard and I abandon what I was just doing for better or worse. But I mean, it's one of those things where, like, in-season scouting is so important to keep you looking for all those things and for all that fresh sign. And I don't know, just keep you in that headspace to be looking for what's next. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So dude, as we start looking towards fall 2026 here, what do you got on the docket? What are the goals for the season? What are you most excited for?
So I've got a ton of different things going on in fall, but I've only got Wisconsin and out of state in Kansas. I'm not sure when I'm going to Kansas. I won't reveal any of those dates, I guess, but I'm very excited for those from a hunting perspective. I'm very excited to try and get Caitlin her first deer. Probably most excited for that than anything. I've also got a additional college course I'm taking online for my job. I've got a really big project going on with that job right now, and a huge initiative where we have to save a lot of money per person. And I have one of the highest totals in the company in my current role. So that's weighing on me a lot. Like, how is that going to all drive out during hunting season?
Mm-hmm.
And so usually when I go, and I've also got a very, very, very big buck to chase and a couple other really good bucks to chase. So it is a season where I can see myself setting a lot of expectations and being disappointed if they don't come to fruition. So I want to stop myself from being an idiot like I have in the past and just go and have fun. Like, I don't care if I kill one in Kansas. I don't care if I kill one in Wisconsin. I hope I get a few sits where I have fun with Caitlin. I hope I get to take my dog out on some bird hunts this year. But like, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And I'm just going to do everything I can to be, the best person I can be all throughout that, not let the stress get to me. But I think that that's going to be like the major test of the season is like, how do I deal with all these different things I have going on? And how do I come out like better, on the last end? And it might be that I kill these deer. It might be that I don't. It might be, whatever. But I don't know. It's been a while since I've like not killed a buck in a season. So I kind of think that that's probably going to happen. But I am not going to set any expectation on like how that's going to happen or when or where. I'm just going to like have fun, fly by the seat of my pants, probably hang out with some good people, have some good times, and it'll be another awesome deer season.
Hell yeah. That's what's most important, buddy. I mean, it's when you take the pressure off, that's when the good things happen.
Yeah.
That's
I'd
when
love to
everything
hunt with my
falls into
brother
place.
more this season, Pierce. I should have said that.
Yeah.
My brother and I got a couple sits in last year, but he was pretty busy. And I don't think, I love his girlfriend, but I don't think she knew the time that it would take from him to, be in the woods to succeed in deer hunting.
Sure.
So I really want to witness him kill a deer or take him out. I think that would be super cool.
Totally.
So I would love to do that. So maybe I'll make him, while my knee's hurting, I can make him set up the trail cam. Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. I'll have him. Pierce, you're just giving me great ideas.
That's
so
what
I
I'm
can
here
put,
for, buddy.
dude, I'm going to put someone else's life in danger. Perfect.
There we go.
But yeah,
send
dude.
Cam in there. He still owes you for dragging out that buck.
Cam is I've never golfed before. So Cam and I are going to a golf simulator tomorrow because we're on the same team in a drinking 9-hole golf scramble, and so we can't get too annihilated. So I need to somewhat know what I'm doing. So we're gonna teach me how to play good golf, and in exchange for that, I'll let him set up my trail cameras this year and maybe take him out more.
There you go. That's perfect. Yeah,
I'll have to tell him you had that idea.
Yeah, just don't get too wed to golf. I hear it's bad for your knees and back, and I hear it's more expensive than hunting and fly fishing. So it's just a hazard that nobody needs to deal with, right?
I've avoided it because I hate being bad at things, and I know I will be bad at golf, and that's why I've avoided it. But I hate being bad at things so much that I at least need to get. I've been to hundreds of driving ranges. I've drove tens of thousands of balls, and I've putted tens of thousands. Everything in between is a toss up. We'll see how that goes. But so I don't know. But I have no intentions of getting into golf because I have way too much crap going on in my life. And I think if I did, my wife would literally run me over with my truck. So
well, I think I don't know. That's avoidable at least, as long as you just stay in the woods, keep the dog happy, keep the wife happy,
it would slow me down just long enough to get into another hobby. So
yep. Exactly. Well, buddy, we've been going for a little over an hour and a half here. I don't want to take up too much of your evening, but dude, I enjoyed this conversation so freaking much, man. I'm insanely excited to see you next week for the deer season kickoff, and for us to throw that bad boy down and see some familiar faces that I'm sure both of us know. And I don't know. I think it's just going to be an awesome time. So, dude, I appreciate you taking time to come on the show, buddy. I appreciate your friendship, and man, I look forward to seeing you next week. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Yeah, dude. Likewise. It's been a blessing to come on here again and be the old reliable, the little hookup here. But dude, I appreciate a ton, and I always enjoy our conversations too, Pierce. Very excited for next week.
Likewise, buddy. We'll talk soon. Take care, everyone.